She smiled at you. She laughed at your joke. She stayed in that conversation for 45 minutes. And then she was just gone. No text back. No secondate. Nothing. You were playing everything, trying to figure out what went wrong. Because from where you stood, it felt real. It felt like something was happening between you two. But here's the truth. Something was happening. You just couldn't read it. While you focused on saying the right words, her body ran a different conversation. One you never knew existed. It started the second you walked through that door. By the time you said goodnight, it was finished. Welcome to Obscura Psyche. Tonight, we go somewhere most channels are too scared to take you. We are not here to give you pickup lines. We are not here to teach you tricks. We are here to teach you how to see. Really? See. The kind of seeing that changes how you walk into every room for the rest of your life. Because here is what the most dangerous thinker understood. Something he wrote over 500 years ago that still holds true today. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote this. Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Think about that slowly. Most people react to what they see on the surface. The smile. The laugh. The polite nod. They take it at face value. But the man who watches with discipline, who trains himself to look past the surface, sees an entirely different world. That is what tonight is about. Not manipulation. Not games. Not tricks. Sight. The ability to read what a woman's body is saying when her mouth is saying something completely different. Because those two things almost never match, and the gap between them, that's where the truth lives. Before we go deeper, understand something important. Competitor channels won't tell you because it makes the content less exciting. Body language is not magic. It is not a cheat code. It is a skill. And like every real skill, it takes patience to learn properly. The man who rushes this, who learns one signal and thinks he knows everything, is more dangerous to himself than to anyone else. He misreads. He embarrasses himself. He pushes away the very women he was trying to understand. Machiavelli warned about this. He said that the prince who acts on incomplete information is worse off than the prince who acts on none at all. False confidence creates mistakes. So we are going to do this properly. We are going to build this skill from the ground up, signal by signal, layer by layer. By the end of tonight, you will not just know a list of body language cues. You will understand the system behind them, the logic, the psychology, why her body does what it does and what it means in real time. Let's start here. Every woman who walks into a social situation is running a biological program active for hundreds of thousands of years. This program has one primary job: safety assessment. Before she decides anything about you, her nervous system asks, is this safe? Not is this man handsome? Not is this man funny? Not even is this man confident? Is this safe? This is not a conscious decision. She's not sitting there thinking about it. It happens below the level of thought, in a part of the brain that existed long before language did. Because it happens below thought, she cannot fake it, control it, or stop it. This is the insight that changes everything. The signals her body sends are not opinions. They are not judgments she chose to make. They are biological outputs from a system that is doing exactly what it was built to do. Which means when you learn to read them, you are not reading her preferences. You are reading her nervous system, and the nervous system never lies. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man studies human nature, not human words, not human intentions, but nature, the raw, instinctive patterns that drive behavior before the thinking mind can interfere. He wrote, "Whoever wishes to foresee the future must consult the past, for human events ever resemble those of preceding times." This arises from the fact that they are produced by men who have been, and ever will be, animated by the same passions, same biology, same nervous system signals. 500 years later, the same program is still running. So here is your foundation. The thing every signal we discuss tonight builds on. When a woman feels safe, her body opens. When a woman feels unsafe, whether the threat is physical, emotional, social, or even just disappointment, her body closes. Open and closed. That is the master key. Everything else we talk about tonight is just a specific expression of that one principle. Her feet, open or closed. Her hands, open or closed. Her posture, open or closed. Her breathing, open or close it. Even in ice, open or closed. Once you understand what you are looking for at the root level, the individual signals make sense. You stop memorizing a checklist and start reading a person. That is the difference between a man who studied body language for a weekend and a man who actually understands people. One has a list. The other has sight. Tonight, we build sight. We start in 60 seconds with the first signal cluster, the one that tells you everything about where you stand before you have said a single word. Stay with me. This is where it gets real. Here is something nobody teaches you. Before a woman decides if she likes you, before she is attracted to you, before she even wants to keep talking to you, she decides where to put you. Not consciously, not deliberately, but her nervous system makes this classification automatically in the first few seconds of contact, and it places you into one of 3 invisible zones. And which zone she puts you in determines everything that follows. It determines how close she stands to you, how open her body is when she faces you, whether her energy moves toward you or away from you. Most men walk through their entire lives never knowing these zones exist. They wonder why some interactions feel easy and others feel like pushing a boulder uphill. The answer is almost always the same. They got placed in the wrong zone before they said their first word. Getting moved to a better zone requires significant and consistent effort. So understanding how zone placement happens and how to influence it from the very first second is not a small advantage. It is everything. Let us name the 3 zones so you can carry them with you. The first zone is the threat zone. This is where man goes when her nervous system flags him as a potential source of danger, discomfort, or emotional pain. The threat does not have to be physical. It can be social threat, the fear of embarrassment. It can be emotional threat, the fear of being used or hurt again. It can even be energetic threat, something about a man's desperation, nervousness, or aggressive neediness that triggers her alarm system without her being able to explain why. When you are in the threat zone, her body closes completely. Arms cross, shoulders turn away, feet point toward the exit. The second zone is the neutral zone. This is where most men live and never escape from. She is not threatened. She is not attracted. You are simply there. Safe enough to tolerate, not interesting enough to pursue. In the neutral zone, her body is politely open but not genuinely engaged. She will make eye contact, but it will not linger. She will laugh, but it will not be real. Of numbers that never get texted, of conversations that end with it was nice meeting you and nothing else. The third zone is the safety zone. And this is where everything changes. The safety zone is not about attraction yet. It comes before attraction. It is the zone where her nervous system has classified you as non-threatening, steady, and real. When you are in the safety zone, her body begins to open, not all at once. Gradually, like a door being unlocked, one bolt at a time, and it is from inside the safety zone, and only from inside it, that genuine attraction can develop and grow. Machiavelli wrote something that maps onto this perfectly. He said that a prince who tries to inspire love before he has first established security will always fail, that people cannot open their hearts to someone who has not first made them feel stable. Security before affection. Safety before attraction. The zone system is just biology expressing the same truth. Now here is what most men get catastrophically wrong. They try to jump straight to attraction. They come in loud, impressive, intense, trying to create sparks before they have created safety. And what happens? Her nervous system flags the intensity as a threat. She closes. He gets placed in the threat zone not because he is dangerous, but because he felt unstable. Unpredictable energy feels like danger to the nervous system. It does not matter how good-looking it does not matter how funny his opener was. Instinct overrides logic every single time. So, how do you enter the safety zone from the very first second? It starts with how you occupy space. A man who is comfortable in his own body takes up space naturally, not aggressively, not performatively, but calmly. His shoulders are back without being puffed up. His movements are slow without being sluggish. He does not fidget. He does not scan the room desperately. He does not rush his words to fill silence. He simply exists in the space he is in, as if he has every right to be there and no particular need to prove it. This quality, calm, grounded physical presence, is the single most powerful first signal a man can send. It communicates safety before a single word is spoken, and her nervous system picks it up instantly. Now watch what her body does in response to this kind of presence. If you have entered correctly, you will see what researchers in behavioral science call a postural softening. Her shoulders drop very slightly from where they were held high and tight. Her jaw and her breathing slows from her chest down toward her belly. These are tiny movements. Most people completely miss them, but they are the clearest signal you will ever receive that her system has classified you as safe, that the first bolt on that door just unlocked. From here, you do not push. You do not accelerate. You simply stay exactly as you are, consistent and calm, and you watch the next bolt unlock on its own. Machiavelli's greatest lesson to princes was not how to conquer. It was how to consolidate, how to hold ground once you have taken it, because taking ground is easy. Holding it requires discipline. The safety zone works the same way. Getting in is one thing. Staying in, staying calm, staying consistent, not suddenly becoming needy or intense or desperate. That is the real skill. And the men who master it are the men who never have to wonder why she stopped texting back. They already know. And more importantly, they already know how to prevent it. In the next segment, we go inside the specific signals, starting with the ones hiding in plain sight that almost every man walks right past every single day. There is a moment in every interaction that most men completely miss. It happens fast. It is subtle, and it contains more honest information than anything she will say to you in the entire conversation. It is the moment her body stops performing and starts reacting. Because here is what you need to understand about human beings. We are all performing to some degree in social situations. We choose our words carefully. We manage our facial expressions. We try to project a certain image, but the body, the hands, the feet, the eyes, these parts were never designed for performance. They were designed for survival, and survival systems do not take direction from the part of the brain that cares about social appearances. They take direction from something much older, much faster, and completely beyond conscious control. This is where the truth lives, not in what she says, not even in her smile. In the parts of her body she forgot to manage because she was too busy managing everything else. Machiavelli wrote that the most valuable intelligence a prince can gather comes not from what his advisors tell him directly, but from what they reveal without meaning to. He said that people guard their words carefully, but guard their instincts poorly, and that the wise observer pays more attention to the unguarded moments than to anything deliberately communicated. 500 years later, this is still the most accurate description of how to read another human being ever written. The unguarded moments. That is what we are hunting for tonight. And the three richest sources of unguarded information on a woman's body are her hands, her feet, and her eyes, not independently. Together. Because as we established in segment 1, a single signal means very little. It is when the hands and the feet and the eyes all tell the same story at the same time that you know you are reading something real. Let us start with the feet, because they are the most honest part of the human body and the most consistently ignored. The feet are physically the furthest point from the brain. They receive the least conscious attention. Nobody thinks about managing their feet in a social situation, which means the feet operate almost entirely on instinct. An instinct always points the body toward what it wants and away from what it doesn't. When she is standing, talking to you, and both feet are pointed directly at you, her body has decided you are worth orienting toward. This sounds simple. It is, simply. But watch how rarely it actually happens when she is not genuinely interested. When a woman is tolerating a conversation rather than enjoying it, one foot almost always begins to angle away, toward the door, toward the next group of people, toward anywhere that is not directly in front of you. She may not move. She may keep talking, keep smiling, keep doing everything that looks like engagement, but one foot has already started to leave. It is the most honest exit signal in the human body, and almost nobody watches for it. Now move up to the hands. The hands are slightly more managed than the feet, but still far more honest than the face. When a woman is genuinely comfortable and engaged, her hands are relaxed and visible. They gesture naturally when she talks. They rest open at her sides or in her lap. They do not clutch, grip, fidget, or hide. Open hands are one of the clearest signals of genuine ease that the human body produces. But when discomfort enters the picture, the hands immediately go to work doing something specific. They begin what behavioral scientists call pacifying behaviors. She touches her neck. She runs her fingers along her collarbone. She plays with her hair, her jewelry, her sleeve. She wraps one hand around her own wrist. These are not random nervous habits. They are her nervous system attempting to self-soothe in real time, sending calming signals to a body that has registered some form of stress. The critical question, the question that separates a man with real observational skill from a man with a simple checklist, is this: what triggered the pacifying behavior? Was it something you said? Something you did? Did it start when you moved closer? Did it start when the conversation shifted to a certain topic? The trigger tells you far more than the behavior itself. Find the trigger, and you find the truth. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince does not simply observe that something is happening. He traces it back to its source. He finds the cause beneath the effect, because understanding the cause gives you the ability to change the outcome. Simply noticing that her hands are fidgeting tells you something is wrong. Understanding what caused the fidgeting tells you exactly what to fix. This is the difference between awareness and intelligence. Both matter, but intelligence is what actually changes results. Now let us talk about the eyes, because this is where most men think they already know what to look for, and where most men are most consistently wrong. Everyone has heard that eye contact is important. Everyone has been told to hold her gaze with confidence. And that advice is not wrong exactly. It is just dangerously incomplete, because eye contact is not a single signal. It is a conversation within a conversation. And like any conversation, what matters is not just what is being said, but how it is being said, when it changes, and what happens in the spaces between. Here is what to actually watch for. When she looks at you, note how long the contact lasts before she looks away. 1 to 2 seconds is polite and means very little. 3 to 4 seconds is engaged and means she is genuinely processing you. 5 seconds or more, combined with a slight softening of the face, is intimate. It means she is allowing you into her mental space, which is a far more significant thing than most men realize. But the direction she looks when she breaks contact matters just as much as the duration. If she breaks contact and looks down, she's processing emotion. Something about the interaction is affecting her internally, and she needs a moment to manage it. This is often a sign of genuine engagement and sometimes of attraction. If she breaks contact and looks to the side, she's thinking, evaluating, deciding something about you. If she breaks contact and looks around the room with a flat expression, she has already mentally left. Her body just has not caught up yet. Watch the direction every single time. It is a map of exactly where her mind is going. And here is the cluster moment, the one that removes all doubt. When her feet point toward you, her hands are relaxed and open, and her eye contact is sustained and warm. You are not guessing anymore. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation. Machiavelli said that the prince who waits for certainty before he acts will always act too late, but the prince who acts without confirmation will always act too early. The cluster is your confirmation. 3 signals. Same direction. Same story. That is when you move. Not before. Not after. Right then. In the next segment, we go into the deepest layer of all the signals, that happen below the surface of the skin, the ones she has absolutely zero ability to control, and the ones that reveal the most intimate truths of all. Everything we've covered so far, feet, hands, eyes, zones, can be partially managed by a socially aware woman if she's paying attention. She can force her feet to stay pointed at you. She can keep her hands still through sheer willpower. She can maintain eye contact even when she doesn't feel it. It takes effort and conscious attention, but it is possible. For the truly skilled observer, the signals we've discussed are just the opening layer. The surface, the first page of a much longer book. Underneath every managed expression and controlled posture, there's a signal layer no human can fake, suppress, or manufacture. Not her, not you, not anyone. This is where biology speaks directly, without interference from the thinking mind. Tonight, in this final segment, we go there. We go all the way down to where the truth is so raw and unfiltered. Once you learn to read it, you will never be able to unsee it again. Machiavelli wrote something in his private letters that very few people discuss because it is far more revealing than anything in The Prince. He wrote that the most dangerous man in any room is not the strongest or the loudest or the most powerful. It is the man who has trained himself to be completely still inside while everything around him moves, because that stillness, that internal quiet, gives him the ability to observe details that everyone else is too busy, too anxious, or too distracted to notice. He called this quality the observer's advantage, and it is precisely this quality that unlocks the final layer of body language. You cannot read breath patterns if your own anxiety is screaming in your ears. You cannot detect micro-shifts in vocal tone if you are too busy thinking about what to say next. The observer's advantage begins with your own stillness. Remember that as we go deeper, let us start with breathing because it is the bridge between the conscious and unconscious body. Breathing is unique among all physical functions because it is the only one that operates both automatically and voluntarily. You can control your breath if you choose to. But the moment your attention goes elsewhere, the automatic system takes over again. And the automatic system responds directly and immediately to emotional state. When a woman is genuinely relaxed and comfortable in your presence, her breathing is slow, deep, and originates from low in her body, from the belly rather than the chest. You can see this if you watch carefully. Her stomach moves slightly with each breath. Her shoulders stay relatively still. This is her parasympathetic nervous system, in control, the rest and digest mode, that only activates when the brain has assessed the environment as safe. This is the breathing pattern of a woman who has placed you firmly in the safety zone. But when stress enters, when something about the interaction triggers her alarm system even slightly, the breathing pattern changes immediately. And involuntarily, it moves upward. The belly stops moving and the chest and shoulders begin to rise with each inhale. This is shallow, stress-driven breathing. Her sympathetic nervous system has just activated. Her body is preparing for protective action. And the critical thing to understand is that this shift happens before she is even consciously aware that she feels uncomfortable. The body reacts faster than the mind can process, which means her breathing tells you she is uncomfortable before she has even registered the feeling herself. If you are observant enough to catch this shift and respond, soften your voice, slow your movements, give her more physical space, you can actually prevent the discomfort from fully registering. You can create ease before the unease solidifies. This is not manipulation. This is emotional intelligence operating at its highest level. Now let us talk about the voice. The voice is one of the most underestimated sources of emotional information in human interaction. Most people listen to the words. Almost nobody listens to the voice carrying the words. But the voice, its pitch, its pace, its texture, its rhythm, these qualities are largely involuntary responses to emotional state. When a woman is genuinely relaxed and moving toward you emotionally, her voice drops slightly in pitch. It becomes softer at the edges. The pace slows just a little. There is a quality of ease in it, a looseness, that you can feel even if you cannot immediately explain it. This vocal shift happens automatically when the body is in a low-stress state. You cannot perform it convincingly without genuinely feeling the underlying emotion that produces it. Conversely, when a woman is performing interest without feeling it, when she is being polite or socially appropriate rather than genuinely engaged, her voice stays higher, tighter, more controlled. The pace is more deliberate. There is a slight mechanical quality to it, as if the words are being produced rather than simply spoken. Machiavelli wrote that the performance of virtue is easier to maintain in the words than in the voice that carries them. That the voice, unlike the words, is connected directly to the interior state of the speaker. Train yourself to hear the voice beneath the words. It will tell you things the words will never admit. Now we arrive at the deepest signal of all, the one that operates completely beyond the reach of conscious control. Under any circumstances, micro-expressions, these are involuntary facial movements that last between 1/25th and 1/5th of a second. They flash across the face so fast that the conscious mind, hers and yours, typically does not register them at all. They are the face's honest first reaction to an emotional stimulus, appearing before the managed expression can be assembled and presented. Research into micro-expressions was developed through decades of studying deception and emotional concealment. And what that research consistently found was that the micro-expression almost always contradicts the managed expression that follows it. She smiles warmly at something you say, but for 1/5th of a second before that smile assembles itself, something else crosses her face: contempt, discomfort her, and this is equally important, genuine delight that she is trying to contain. The micro-expression is the truth. Everything after it is the performance. The 4 most important micro-expressions to train yourself to catch are these: a flash of genuine enjoyment, where the corners of the eyes crinkle involuntarily for just a fraction of a second, tells you the positive response is real. A flash of contempt, a very slight unilateral curl of one side of the upper lip, tells you something registered as dismissible or inferior, even if she nodded agreeably afterward. A flash of fear, a brief widening of the eyes, combined with a slight pulling back of the chin, tells you something triggered her threat response, even if she recovered immediately. And a flash of suppressed desire, a very brief parting of the lips, combined with a slight forward microlean of the head, tells you that attraction is present, even if every other signal she is sending is carefully neutral. Machiavelli's ultimate teaching about human nature was this. He said that men deceive themselves most completely, not when others lie to them, but when they choose not to look closely enough to see the truth that is already visible. The micro-expressions are always there. The breath shifts are always happening. The vocal changes are always present. The information was never hidden. It was simply moving too fast and too subtly for an untrained eye to catch. And most people never train the eye. They stay comfortable in the world of words, of surface impressions, of what people want them to see. And they spend their lives being surprised by outcomes that were never actually a surprise at all. The signals were there from the beginning, every single time. So here is where we land tonight. You came into this with a question. Why did she disappear when everything seemed to be going so well? And the answer, now that you have the full picture, is clear. Everything was not going well. The signals were telling you that from the start. Her feet were angled away. Her hands were pacifying. Her eye contact was polite but not sustained. Her breathing was in her chest. Her voice was controlled rather than loose. And in the fraction of a second before every managed smile, something else was crossing her face. You missed Italiano, not because you are not intelligent, not because you are not perceptive, but because nobody ever taught you what to look for, or how to look for it. That changes tonight. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who sees clearly, even when what he sees is uncomfortable, is always in a stronger position than the prince who sees only what he wishes were true. Clearly, see honestly, see, and use what you see, not to control, but to understand. Because real connection, the kind that actually lasts, was never built on performance. It was always built on the courage to see another person as they truly are, and to let them see you the same way. That is the final lesson of the shadow mind, and that is where Obscura Psyche leaves you tonight.